best cheap, another cheap item, something that is cheap. So one thing that's cheap, this is cheap stuff, even though it may be cheap and military grade, but I repeat myself, being one of those items that is cheap. One item that is very cheap, all right, something that is very cheap, it's military grade, so you know it's cheap. We know it's gonna be cheap because it's made for the military. Hey guys, welcome back to Ranger Survival in Fieldcraft. I'm Andrew, and what I have for you today is a list of the top 10 best, cheapest military survival and bushcraft items. These are going to be items that are really affordable, that are great for beginners, that offer a lot of different improvisational techniques and uses for survival and bushcraft. Items that you're going to want to keep in your urban bag, your bug out bag, or it's just part of your emergency kit that are reliable, be used and abused, and will still work for you. So we're going to go over those right now. Stand by. All right, so one item that is very cheap, easy for us to find at any surplus shop, that is great for survival, great for bushcraft, is going to be that military entrenching tool. This thing collapses down into a small size. We can take this pouch with the Alice clips back here, or get the Molly attachment pouch for that entrenching tool carrier, and slap it on the outside of our ruck. This plastic one is old school. I actually picked this up when I was in the airborne because I wanted the e-tool on the outside of my rucksack. Typically at that time we had the Molly entrenching tool carrier system. And so we would take that whole pouch with the e-tool inside, and we would just shove it inside of our rucksack. We had a tie down that would go through the bottom of that pouch, 550 cord, so we could actually take it. There was enough quarters so we could slide this right inside of our rucksack, and then once we landed, after dropping our gear, we could pull this out, reattach it to the outside, and then tuck that 550 cord inside the pouch itself, and then be on our way. But I wanted something so I could have just kind of a robust pouch that wasn't going to tear or rip off as I exited the aircraft, and then something that would handle impact on the ground, because we were jumping rucksacks that were anywhere from 50 to 80 pounds depending on what we were carrying. And so I just wanted something a little bit more robust. Something easy for us to find is an e-tool or entrenching tool, and then a plastic case like this one. I got this case for maybe $5, you know, almost 15 years ago now. But the e-tool itself, well, the e-tool, what I've seen in surplus shops, they go anywhere from 20 to 30 bucks maybe. This one was free because the Army issued me 2, and I'm turning 1 in because that's all that's on my clothing record. So that one e-tool is going to be turned in. This one is the one I'm going to keep, and you can see that I have banged the crap out of this. This e-tool is an amazing piece of kit because we can use it obviously for digging. We can keep it like this, put it flat on the ground, and then use this as a makeshift anvil for crafting different items, whether we're trying to flatten nails out, or we're making different cable ties, or need to split some wood for some reason. We can use this as a makeshift anvil. We can also take this out, and you see how dirty that is. But we can turn it into a pickaxe. We can actually keep it in this configuration right here and use it as just a makeshift field chair to actually sit down, keep this part on the ground, and then just balance our 4th point of contact right on the back side of our shovel here. Besides being a digging implement, we can use this to go ahead and bash face as some sort of fighting tool as well. And I bet you didn't know, but this thing can actually start a fire. All right, so besides this thing being able to take down material, dry wood saplings for shelter craft, and even gathering large amounts of firewood, we're going to use this as a flint and steel kit. So we just need charred material and then some sort of hard rock. We're going to try to strike a spark onto that to get it ignited. There it is. All right, so flint and steel, igniting charred material, hard rock, and our big e-tool. Too easy. Whoa, 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 don't go anywhere. I know. I'm going to take you into Mordor, bring you right back to the Shire, because we're going to discuss that angle-headed flashlight, or the L-shaped flashlight, as being one of those items that is cheap, and is actually a really good piece of equipment for beginners, especially in survival, in bushcraft, or even if you're just using older technology like your Alice Pack, a BDU style poncho like on my table right here, or your old pup tent, and you just want to keep with that theme. This light is still really good. You can take this light, throw it around, abuse it, and it will still work. You can put this in your car or in your go bag, and it will still work. It's great for just a basic light to have, to hold, and find your way. We obviously have technology now like headlamps or LED flashlights. This one is LED if you couldn't tell, to free up our hands at night so we can have both hands instead of holding onto this flashlight. Still use these older flashlights, especially in a basic kit or in a cheaper, more affordable kit, because this incandescent version of the L-shaped flashlight I picked up for about $7 or $8 at the Post Exchange. It was on the bottom rack shelf, and there were about 50 of these just thrown in there. And they're cheap, easy to pick up, so grab a few. They're great for kids. Kids love them because you can do a lot of things with them. Even the smaller version of the LED right here, we can camo this up, keep the lenses, add a little lanyard in here for our hands so we don't lose our flashlight. And this thing is still really affordable, still really good, and because it's LED and it's a miniature version of the L shape, it's still a really good flashlight. The downside is obviously that it's not as powerful as more contemporary or modern flashlights. It's not going to stick on our head so we can free up our hands. But with this flashlight, we can replace the batteries fairly easily. It's going to be a little bit heavier, obviously, and more bulky as part of our kit, but it comes with different lenses. So we have red lens, we have blue lens. We can also downshift on this and actually use the light as a signal. So we can create our own active signal, and we can use different lenses incorporated into the kit for signaling. This light is actually good for a beginner kit because it's robust, we can throw it around, we can abuse it, it's cheap, it's military grade, so we know it's cheap, but I repeat myself. With this flashlight, I've actually found 6 different ways to start fire. Most of them are going to take place using the battery's internal energy combined with a few other items with this flashlight. And an old school technique is to turn this into just a small fire starting kit, and I'll show you how to do that here. Different ways I found anyway to start fires using this angle head or L-shaped flashlight. Trick in making this a fire starting kit is that we have the incandescent bulbs. If you can find the incandescent version of this flashlight, I would recommend that because we can always order extra bulbs. See right here, I've got extra incandescent bulbs. It means they have the actual filament in the bulb itself. We want that filament as opposed to an LED. If we have the LED version and that's all we have, we're going to have one less option of starting fire using this. And also, underneath the battery cap at the bottom, if we pull out the spring, we can dump out the spare bulb that's part of this kit. So this flashlight comes with 2 bulbs unless it's LED, and then they take obviously these giant D batteries here. This is still really a good kit, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? The way we make this a fire starting kit is down here at the bottom. This bottom compartment typically is going to have the lenses like we have red up here. Unscrew the bottom down here, and what we do is we add some steel wool, fine grade steel wool at the bottom, and on top of that we've placed just a couple of coil lead wires. Those lead wires and steel wool we can use to actually attach to the light housing here inside the flashlight, and those brass terminal points. We can actually use the flashlight's own battery power with the lead wires attached to those terminal points, and then touch our steel wool, light it, and then put it in a fire lay to get a fire going. We actually don't need lead wires if we have enough steel wool, because all we have to do is take out a piece of our steel wool and we form it up, kind of a small cigarette roll like that, and we can simply turn on the flashlight and touch it to the terminals and light it that way. Don't forget to turn off the flashlight. We just take that, we put it in our fire lay to get a fire going. Another way to start fire with this is with the actual light itself. What we would do is simply remove the bulb. We would crack the glass of the bulb, because we could just put everything in here. We'd take out all the lenses, and we would just have that filament and the bulb exposed. Put all the tinder in there, reassemble our flashlight, and then simply turn it on, and that would cause the filament in the incandescent bulb to burn, igniting our tinder, and then all we have to do after that is just dump our tinder in our bird's nest or tinder bundle, and then blow it into flame and get our fire going that way. So actually, we can use the parabolic lens to create two different fires. We can use the parabolic lens, buff the lens up, and then use char material. We can use this as solar ignition by focusing the sun's rays into that small parabolic lens. We can also use this parabolic lens with a friction fire set like a bow drill, and we can place the parabolic lens over top of that. We want to have cloth in between the parabolic lens and our hand because this is going to get really hot, and we can use this itself as a bearing block to spin and actually drill in to that hearth board and get a fire going that way. But for the cost of $7 or $8 and having a flashlight that is a little bit bulky or cumbersome to carry, plus the batteries, it still comes with a lot of functions, not only as a light, but also as a survival instrument, especially using improvisational techniques. But the worst thing about it is that, and obviously this L-shaped flashlight is going to cause a lot of PTSD for service members, because the worst thing in the world is that light shining in your face in the middle of the night and somebody waking you up telling you it's your turn for fire guard. So that's my argument and my formulation for why the angle-headed flashlight, military grade, the incandescent version, and even the LED version is still a good flashlight to have, especially for beginners, because you learn a lot about this flashlight and you can learn how to use it and improvise with this flashlight, which makes it great for expanding knowledge and then adding to your kit something you can throw around that's always going to work for you. All right, something that is very cheap, easy for us to pick up, that works and has a lot of different uses at any surplus shop, or maybe in the medical aisle at a camping store. I've seen these things before in those locations. Is just a simple field dressing. This is an old school field dressing. We can take this field dressing and actually open it up. There's a slit here at the top on most of these. You can see the arrow right here where we actually open up the pouch, split it down, and it comes in this nice brown wrapper. We can tear that off too. It opens up. You'll notice there's one complete white side, and then on the other side of the bandage, as we open it up lengthwise, is green. We want to take and have that white away from us. We grab it, open it up best as possible, like that. And that way we have a sterile dressing right there that we can place right on top of an injury. But this dressing still works. It'll hold approximately 1 pint of blood, I believe. And once it starts to bleed through, we know that the patient is still losing blood. We can add another bandage on top, which was old school technique, or we can take that military cravat and then tie it around this bandage with a knot on top, creating what's called a pressure dressing. That's old school technique. Grab my knife. We can actually cut along the top or bottom of the seam here, and we can get access to the cotton material that's inside the bandage. Now the reason we want to cut the bandage is because we need the material inside that cotton for tinder. If you look here, as we open the bandage, you'll notice that there's basically just nothing but layers of cotton cloth material, one over the other. So what we can do with this dressing is peel back some of these layers and take out some of this cotton to use as a fire starter while still keeping enough in here to act as a bandage. We can then close it up, try to secure it in another plastic bag, or just save it and use it for something else. Easily, like this. Comes right out. And then an old school trick, get as much as you need and then grab your camo paint or your face paint. This face paint is made of paraffin wax, which means that this is going to be good flame extender material. And so we can take that cotton, dip it in the actual face paint, mix it together really well, and then take our lighter, light it, and it'll burn for a long, long time, just like Vaseline and cotton balls. Same exact thing right there. So an old school field dressing, you can find it just about any surplus shop. It's going to be $1, maybe $2, and you can buy a bunch of these, throw them in your kit. So not only is it a first aid device to treat injuries, but we can also use it for improvisation, covering more complicated wounds like head wounds. It serves another purpose in that we have that cotton in there that we can use for a tinder source to get a fire going if we need it in an emergency, combined with some sort of flame extender material, petroleum jelly, paraffin wax, like from our face paint. But we leave enough cotton material in here to continue to allow this bandage to function as a bandage, so we can place it over a wound while still having the ability to start a fire and not losing the ability to use this bandage. Good to go. All right, yeah, Paracord, got it. It goes in everybody's kit. This is cheap stuff that we can find just about anywhere nowadays. It's ubiquitous in the military. It comes in 4 different types, typically, but this stuff we can buy off the shelf now in just about any different configuration we want. We can actually get Paracord now that has wire and fishing line, as well as jute tinder inside, and so we can find Paracord in a lot of different places. I wanted to point out to you guys is that there are typically 4 different types that we can go after because they have different uses, and because they're made up of different things, we can apply them to our kits differently to meet our needs. That first type is just going to be type 1 Paracord. This stuff is just the small 100-pound tensile strength Paracord. It's got 1 inner strand, so we can still use those inner strands for different things like fishing cord and sewing line, but we can actually get a lot of type 1 Paracord in those smaller kits. Think survival tins or pocket kits, small things to carry. And this right here is about 50 feet of cordage. That's a lot of cordage in a small package. Next we have type 2 Paracord. Type 2 Paracord typically comes with either 4 or 5 inner strands. This one I have right here is 5 inner strands. If you can see that, it's got 5 inner strands. So it's got 5 inner strands, typically 4 or 5. But the way you can tell that this is type 2 Paracord is that if you look along the side of the Paracord sheath, that outer green sheath, you'll notice black dots spiraling around the cordage itself. It's usually a dead giveaway that this is type 2 Paracord. Plus, this is going to feel a lot thinner in the hand compared to type 3 or even type 4 Paracord, just because there are obviously fewer inner strands. Next, obviously, we just have type 3 Paracord. Type 3 Paracord is going to have those 7 inner strands, and this is about 25 feet of cordage right here. This is going to be the standard cordage for any survival kit. This is typically what makes up the suspension lines in military parachutes. So we grab this off the parachute once we land, or if we're a pilot and we eject out of our aircraft, cut this up, store it in our pockets, and we have a bunch of Paracord right there. And then we have type 4 Paracord. Type 4 Paracord is a little bit harder to find, but this type 4 Paracord actually has, instead of 7 inner strands, it's going to have 11 inner strands. So you can see there's a ton of inner strands right there, way more than 7. So with type 4 Paracord, compared to type 3, we're going to have 4 additional strands. That's 200 pounds more tensile strength, type 3 to type 4. So we're going to have about 750 to 800 pound tensile strength with type 4 Paracord. But these are going to be the ones we typically find in surplus shops that are used by the military for different purposes. Again, we have type 1, type 2 with the pattern on it, so we know there's only 4 or 5 inner strands, type 3 with those 7 inner strands, and then type 4 with 11 inner strands or more. Just cordages that are cheap, easy for us to find in a variety of different colors that we can use for different purposes based on their tensile strength and the inner guts. Again, this is the best survival cordage we're going to have in any kit. So one thing that's cheap, easy to find, not only at a surplus shop, but also just commercially off any shelf in any camping store aisle, is going to be a match safe. Matches are still really good ways to get a fire going. Very simple, easy to use, and so having a match safe to keep those matches safe, that's the name, is important. You can carry a lot of matches in here. Notice how we have the striker on top. Then even inside we have stormproof matches. We could use any matches. Strike anywhere matches are going to be great. For this, they're smaller in length, so they'll fit down inside the actual safe very well, leaving enough room at the top here where we can put extra tinder in top. And the reason we do that is so we can use that tinder to help get a fire going. But if we run out of matches and we have that tinder left, on the bottom of most of these match safes, especially the military ones, there's going to be a small ferro rod. We can actually strike that to get a spark onto that tinder and get a fire going that way. Of course, if we don't have a striker and our striker's damaged for whatever reason or we lose it, we can actually crush up matches in the safe into a container or some sort of catch. And then once we have those matches crushed up, we can actually use the ferro rod with some sort of striker to ignite those matches as if we had a striker, still being able to use the matches with the ferro rod on bottom to get them lit to get a fire going. And then before I forget, with this match safe, one technique I've seen is utilizing it as a fishing kit because it's an enclosed container. It's small, can go in our pocket. OD green, so it works well with a military survival kit. And it's already got that fire starter on bottom. So we could take something like our fishing kit. We don't want to have this hard plastic container. We can take that kit, take the items out, put it in the match safe. This thing floats as well in the water. And so we can pack it with all our terminal tackle, hooks, line, bobber, sinkers, whatever we want, and then wrap the line outside the actual match safe itself, and even use this as just a simple hobo line to go fishing very quickly while we're laying down at the prone at the water's edge, get our fish, bring it out, and then move back to our hide site. We can pack this kit up very quickly, leave this larger kit in our main pack, and we have a small fishing kit that we can actually go scouting with. So that's just another technique, extra information that I offer to you guys. All right, so one piece of kit that is never going to go out of style, something that's always going to be useful because of its utility, something that is cheap, affordable, something we can add to a bushcraft kit, to a survival kit, to a go bag, to our tactical kit, is just a simple canteen and nesting cup, and even with pouch. This canteen, it's a Nalgene plastic canteen. It's not one of the Army OD Green canteens because I got those clean and I'm getting ready to turn them in. But we have just a basic canteen, 32 ounces, 1 liter, to go along with that to treat that water. We have iodine tablets. It's usually 2 tablets per 1 US quart or 1 liter to treat that water. But then the most important part, and probably one of the most important items in any survival kit, is just that metal canteen cup or that metal container. This thing will hold about 25 ounces of water. We can place this over a fire, boil that water, make it safe to drink if we run out of those tablets. But then we can even add on some extra things like this aluminum stove stand. We just place that on the bottom of our cup, and now we can actually place this in the fire, over the fire, and get a good boil a little bit more efficiently. This is probably the first canteen cup that I've ever been issued. A lot of good training has happened with this cup, and this thing has been on my side for years and years. And so a canteen cup is a cheap, easy item. Along with the canteen is $7, $8, maybe at the surplus store, and then the cup, depending on its age and wear, could be anywhere from $5 to $15. So a very cheap kit that will work. It's worked throughout the history of warfare, and it's too easy to pack up into a nice solid kit like this, bottle, cup, stovetop, and then right in that canteen cup pouch carrier where we can secure it. And then now we can move from water source to water source, filling up, treating that water, making it safe to consume, staying hydrated, and then make our way out of a survival situation. Or if we're just out camping, we can make our coffee, we can make our food, and have a good time. But this is cheap, easy to use, a simple item that has a lot of history and a lot of use and utility that we can add to our kit. All right, so we're talking the best cheap military survival or bushcraft gear that can go in our kit, and we know it's going to be cheap because it's made for the military. One thing that is easy for us to find, very cheap, that has a wide variety of uses, that is super simple, great for common man setups, people beginning survival that want to have more of a military style kit, something we can find just about anywhere, surplus shops, construction sites, in the trash even, emergency services, very, very simple, is a sandbag. I know, a sandbag. But the sandbag has a variety of uses. You see it's very large. It can carry a lot of things. We can use this sandbag as a ditty bag for all of our kit items. Place it all in here, cinch it up. I would recommend getting rid of this little tag right here, this plastic, and going with 550 cord or something else. But we can use this to store our items in, go out, collect different items. We can use it as a food hang. If we take game off the field, we can put the meat in here, tie it up, string it up from a tree so an animal can't get to it, and we can store it out in the cold. But there are a lot of uses for a sandbag, and this is going to be tough material that's easy to pack down in a very small, flat configuration like this, and we can just put this in our bag and just have it if we need it. We go out and gather resources off the field, fire starters, tinders, different plants. We need some sort of large bag to gather all the firewood material we have and bring it back with us. This sandbag can accomplish a lot of that. Plus, these things are cheap. We can pick them up at a surplus shop, even the used ones that are still kind of put together. We can pick them up for maybe $1, if that. I think I got 6 of these right now, and I picked them up for maybe $1 or $2 from a surplus shop, and I've still got them. But these things are easy to pack in our kit, lightweight. They don't cost much, and they don't take up much space. So why not have just a sandbag? Bring it with you. A million uses, just another container that goes in our kit. All right, something else that is really cheap, and by cheap I mean this thing was thrown together. It's only designed for maybe a use or two, 24-hour type scenario. And what that is just a casualty blanket. We don't call it like a Mylar blanket or thermal blanket. In the military, it's called a casualty blanket because it's a heavy-duty, although cheap, Mylar blanket, typically used to go around casualties and keep them warm. You'll notice this is going to be a lot larger than your typical Mylar blanket that we could fit inside our pocket, but this thing is still really good. It resembles a lot of those commercial thermal blankets, but this thing, the grommets are not very strong, and then the stitching around the entire blanket is relatively weak and cheap and just kind of slapped together very easily because it's designed for the military. It's military grade, so you know it's cheap. But it's really only for 24 hours to keep a casualty warm, to move them from point of treatment on back to a higher level of care. That's why having a casualty blanket like this, a heavy-duty one, inside the medic's bag, inside the platoon medic bag for the casualty collection point is very important, so we can wrap the casualty up in this and then evac the casualty. But this can also be a good survival tool as well because we can use this as a shelter for a short period of time. We can use 100-mile-an-hour tape to fix or reinforce these grommets to make them just a little bit stronger. And we can even take 100-mile-an-hour tape or Gorilla Tape and put a big X on the Mylar side of this blanket to act as a signal. We just reverse this up to the sky so aircraft can actually see that signal and it'll stand out. A bunch of different techniques we can do with just a simple thermal blanket like this, but this is a great, cheap survival blanket. I picked this thing up at a surplus shop for $5. $5, it'll go a long way. It'll definitely save a life, and it'll definitely be good for a short-term survival scenario. So another cheap item I'm a huge fan of is the military cravat. All it is just a triangle piece of cotton material that's used as a dressing. And then if you look on the back, you'll see there's handy-dandy pictures right there for just a couple of the uses that we can use a cravat for. Again, it's a medical dressing, head wrap, pressure dressing, splint, swath. We can use it to support a broken limb as a sling. We can do a lot with this. Typically, these things come wrapped up nice and neat, and they have those safety pins, and there's typically 2 in here. There you go. So there's 2 safety pins that come in each package, meant to be used to help secure this in place. But we can use that cotton material for anything cotton material can be used for in a survival scenario. Always hang on to these. Don't throw those away because we can turn these into fish hooks, or we can use them as improvisational needles. We can do a lot with safety pins, which is why I think this is a great cheap item. You can pick these up probably for $1, probably less than $1 from any surplus shop. Just another cheap military item that has been around the military for a long, long time that we can pick up easily. Again, any surplus shop, or just buy them off the shelf at different online stores. Too easy to carry these things. Again, lightweight, they don't cost much, and then go right in our pocket. So that last item I wanted to show you is one that I've been wearing the entire video. I got a sleeve right here and a sleeve right here, and that is a good old-fashioned smoker's jacket. This is an old school piece of kit that is actually the liner for the inside of the field jacket. So here's my old school field jacket that I was issued back when I was an E-nothing. You can see we've got buttons on the inside of the coat, on the inside of the sleeves. You can use the buttons here along the seam of the front of the jacket, and then these attachments at the sleeve to actually insert this and fix it into the field jacket. This is that liner for that, but we call this a smoker's jacket because we could undo this obviously from the jacket, take it off, and wear it at night, and then in the middle of the night, you got to get up, go have a cigarette, or early morning, go have a cigarette for whatever reason. You go out there, and this is what all the guys are going to be wearing as they burn one down and wait for their turn at guard. So we can take this and actually wear it as another layer. I've been wearing this the entire video, all yesterday and today, because we're surviving Snowmageddon, and it is very, very warm still. One technique that we can do with this, actually, turn it into a pillow very easily by reaching up through the sleeve, grabbing this material and pulling it through one sleeve. That's just an old school trick right here. Pull all that material into one sleeve, and now this is your pillow at night or a place to rest your head. You've got it right there. It's cheap and affordable. It's going to be anywhere between $10 or $15, maybe $20, depending on that surplus shop, and then depending on the age and the wear. As you can see, this thing really didn't wear it too often, and you can see from my field jacket that this thing didn't get worn very much, because as soon as I came in, I got all BDU stuff, and then we started going to DCU and then finally ACU uniforms and equipment because of global war on terror and all that good stuff. But still, this item for beginners, especially people that may not be camping outside that often and they want something that's warm to wear, but still kind of light, where they can get into their sleeping bag or get out of their tent, do whatever they need to, and then get right back in and still maintain some warmth and comfort. The smoker's jacket is going to be the pick for you. So the fact that this is very cheap and affordable, it lines in a field jacket, or we can wear it as a standalone item. And so what makes the smoker's jacket one of the best cheap items for survival and bushcraft is that it is made of the same material as our poncho liners. So it's going to be really warm. It's going to dry very easily. This is a nice mid-layer that we can wear. Even if it's cold outside, this thing will still keep us warm. It's somewhat wind resistant. It's basically like wearing a poncho liner shirt. But this is great for people just starting out, wanting something to wear around the camp to stay warm, or while you're sleeping, or if you have to get out of your tent to go utilize the wood line or whatever you do, and then get back in. This will keep you warm for a while and comfortable. Plus it doubles as a pillow, so a lot of good uses for this relatively cheap, easy item to afford that can go in our field jacket, or we can stuff it down to a very small package and put it at the top of our rucksack. I'm gonna put this thing back on. Alright guys, that does it for this video. If you like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment down below. I always appreciate you guys' feedback. I want to thank you guys for everything you do for me, for this channel, for your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares, and I will be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks.